So I think all these things play a part. Great question though. Segar, and thank you for the super chat. Chris says, what benefits do domestic cricket teams and associations get when a player from their system gets selected for the national team? So this probably depends on what domestic league you're looking at. There are some. I suppose the best way of looking at it is it allows you to get more players onto contracts because you moved a player, and this would be the case pretty much right across most major international nations now. You have the ability to still pick that player when they're available, which obviously isn't going to be that much, but also you can fit an extra person in your squad, right? From a marketing perspective, which I don't think county cricket plays a huge part, you certainly have that available to you. From a promotions area, if you have a local boy who does well, they're probably going to inspire more people, which means you have the ability to find more players available in your area from that side, Chris. There were financial benefits in the county system for counties that produced international cricketers. I'm not sure if they're still there, but I do remember that, or at least a conversation about that. I'm not sure there are that many for anyone else. And it is why you see teams like Victoria and Nottingham who recruit players that they know will be available all year round, who are really, really good, rather than perhaps going, taking a chance on a 20-year-old. So, it's what you're saying here, Chris, is the eternal argument between Victorian cricket and New South Wales cricket. Whereas Victorian cricket will try and make sure that their team is as strong as possible, pretty much every. They don't play as many younger players. They don't push talent through. They recruit quite heavily from other states if they think there's a player who's, can help them in their side. And New South Wales tend to, over the history of their time, produce a lot more Australian players, despite the fact that they have fewer cricketers in New South Wales than they do in Victoria. They produce a lot more Australian players from that perspective, and and because of that, they still go on to win more Shield titles than Victoria, but they are maybe not as consistently as good as Victoria have been over long periods of time by doing that. Victoria will say, well, yes, we're helping the Victorian team, but also it means that we have, Chris Rogers available when the Australian team needs them, or Scott Boland available, or Colin Miller. Or was Colin Miller playing for Tassie? Actually, he was playing for Tassie. We'll take him away. But, players who are slightly older but are battle-tested, who are ready to come in, Shane Harwood and, Mick Lewis, those sorts of players. So there's no proper way of doing it, but a lot of it is about pride. And so I think your question is probably saying, what is the point of domestic teams doing that? I think if you're a domestic team and you don't produce any international players, that you would say that outside of county cricket, where domestic cricket, I'm not talking about the T20 leagues here as much, but outside of county cricket, there really isn't any, huge boost of having a big star in your local team. If no one's going to watch the Ranji or Shield cricket or, Plunket Shield or whatever it may be, Red Stripe. It's not been called Red Stripe for ages, I don't think, but that's the name in my head. If someone's going to play in those levels of cricket, you're probably not going to get a huge amount out of that sort of thing at all. But the whole thing of why first-class teams exist is really, really interesting, because I think in county cricket and Victoria, to take those two different examples, I think they do think that the team should be strong, and that team really matters for us. I think New South Wales is more of a development squad for the Australian team.